Hello and welcome to another Digital Diamond Baseball video tutorial. This time we're going to be looking at manager profiles. When you're setting up the manager profiles, you get two general options. You can either ask the computer to take over, or you can specify what you want instead. When the computer takes over, you get two choices. You can either have the computer make choices based on real-life playing time or on real-life ability. In real-life playing time, the computer will try and choose players that have played the most. In the ability, the computer will try and choose the best players without taking into account how much they played during the regular season. If you take over the manager profiles on your own, you get to specify exact players you want for specific roles. The advantage of letting the computer take over is that it's constantly reacting to trades, injuries, and other things, so that as your roster changes during the season through these automatic transactions, and maybe you have injuries turned on or something, the computer is always adjusting and always picking players that are active and available. If you make lists on your own and people become injured or traded, your lists start to become stale. The players that you had on your list are no longer on your team or no longer active. The disadvantage of allowing the computer to pick for you is that the computer may not be doing exactly what you want. However, for all of the options here in the manager profile, if you pick computer, there are additional factors you can set up that will help guide the computer so that it will you'll be able to control a little bit what it's doing and hopefully do things for the most part that you would want to happen. The last important thing to take into consideration is playing time limits. If these are turned on in your library, the computer manager will be restricted to not overplaying players. So whether it's picking based on real life playing time or ability, it's going to be restricted to not picking players beyond their regular season playing time. Okay, with that said, let's jump right into the very first section here in the manager profile, which are lineups. And here you can see you have the choice of having the computer pick players based on real life playing time or based on ability, or you can specify the lineups yourself. There's something pretty cool here as well. If the computer is picking the lineups for you, either with real life playing time or with ability, you can specify a strategy that it should use for building the lineup. I think this feature here is unique to Digital Diamond Baseball. The way it works is you can specify what metric you want to use when picking different positions in the lineup, different slots. So for the leadoff hitter, right now we have it set for the computer manager to use on-base percentage. The best on-base percentage at the time will be placed in the leadoff hitter. We're also using on-base percentage for the two-hole hitter, but for the three-hole we're using WAR. And you can change these just by clicking on them. You have several different choices. The next side is what order to set the lineup. So in this case, the first person we're going to try and set is the three-hole hitter. And the three-hole hitter is going to be selected by WAR. So what this means in effect is that the three-hole hitter will be populated by the best WAR player on your team, the player with the best WAR. Then we're going to pick the cleanup hitter, which will end up being the second best player with second best WAR on your team. Then we're going to pick the five-hole hitter, who's going to be picked based on base plus slugging, OPS. And that will be the next available player with the best OPS. And it'll continue filling the lineup in this order, these slots in this order, based on the metrics specified here. This gives you a lot of flexibility. You can move these up or down to change what order you want them to take place. You can change your metrics to be selected. And in doing so, you'll see the computer manager's lineups that it produces will be different based on the things that you set up. You can always reset this back to default if you want. And whatever you choose for the generation options, you can apply globally, either to all leagues or to the National League or AL. Okay, so this gives you some control over how the computer chooses the lineups for you. And again, this is kind of a theme. If you let the computer do things, you still get the option to specify some parameters to get some control. Okay, so now let's take a look at what would happen if we decided to specify the lineups ourselves. In this particular situation, you get to pick the lineups, and you can create a whole bunch of them. You can have them initially populated based on usage, and let's just do this only for Philadelphia right now. So we're only going to generate lineups for Philadelphia, and this is based on usage. Or alternatively, you could have them based on ability. By the way, this is a good way to test your lineup generation strategy. When you click on these buttons, the computer's using the strategy specified here. And if you change it, you'll see you'll get different lineups. Okay, that said, once we've generated these defaults, we can change them however we like. By clicking on Edit, you can rearrange the lineups. You can move players up or down, and you can substitute players as well by clicking on the player you want to substitute and dropping them in the slot that you want. And then you'll notice that we now have 2 left fielders, so we're going to move Lonnie Smith to center field. So you can make those changes to build your own lineups. Another thing that I think is unique to Digital Diamond Baseball is this idea of auto-activating lineups. So you can see I have one lineup versus right-handed pitching, and I'm going to create a new one, also versus right-handed pitching. And now I've got 2, and you'll notice one is gray and one is yellow. The gray one is deactivated, and the yellow one is activated. And you can only have one activated lineup for each of these kinds of lineups. So I can have one activated right-handed pitching lineup, one activated left-handed pitching lineup at any given time. And the cool thing is I can have these auto-activate at a certain time. So when the season starts, this will be the active lineup. But if I click here, I can specify to activate this one. Let's say maybe I want this one to be active on the 1st of May, 1980. And what will happen when I do that is that on this calendar date, this lineup will automatically deactivate and this one will activate. So you can create a whole bunch of lineups that activate over time as the season progresses, allowing you to change your lineup automatically based on what you've built here in your profile. You can also activate these manually. We'll set this to never. You can activate these manually as well. So if I click activate here, you can see that this will be active and that will be deactivated. Okay, so that is it for the lineup section. And in another video, we'll start to look at the other sections of the manager profile. Cheers.